Underlying love, beneath the surface it lies, in the whispers of secrets and unspoken ties, caught between the heart's gentle tug and the dance of romance, in the arms of love.
You are listening to Bradley Barkhurst's Underlying Love, a Worthington, Ohio mystery. Chapter 10, Part 1, The Winds of Change. The next morning, Elizabeth dressed simply and headed to Dr. Bentley's office to meet with him, feeling equal parts dread and determination. Upon arrival, she was shown back immediately to an examination room. The space was cramped and chilly, with various anatomical diagrams on the walls that gave Elizabeth a chill. After a few minutes, Dr. Bentley entered clasping a manila folder.
"Nosy girl, aren't you?"
he said gruffly by way of greeting. Elizabeth stood her ground.
"I'm just a concerned citizen seeking the truth."
Bentley seemed to appraise her shrewdly. Finally, he spoke.
"If you must go on amateur sleuthing, Mrs. Collins needs help boxing up Frank's study. I suppose I could arrange a supervised visit."
Elizabeth's spirits lifted, but she replied evenly.
"That would be quite helpful, thank you."
"Come along then, and not a word of this or your visit ends immediately,"
he commanded. Elizabeth simply nodded. They drove in tense silence to the Collins home. Its windows were now dark and cheerless. Inside, Amy sat playing listlessly while her mother sorted papers. While Dr. Bentley hovered ominously, Elizabeth searched the study for any telling clues about Frank Collins's life or death. The hours passed tensely but uneventfully as she quietly combed through documents while placing them into boxes. Just as they were finishing, Elizabeth spotted a framed photograph of Collins and Bentley, smiling together with a prized hunting trophy. Her blood ran cold. Afterward, Bentley warned her again to stop meddling or face consequences. But the image stayed seared in Elizabeth's mind. What were those two men tangled up in? She was getting closer to collaring the true killer. She could feel it. As mid-November descended on Worthington, the brilliant orange and tan leaves were finally relinquishing their grip on the trees. Elizabeth kept busy raking up the wind-blown piles from her front yard, only to have them scattered again by wind gusts. Betty came outside to check on her, bundled against the chill.
"My goodness, it seems you're fighting a losing battle with these blustery winds,"
she called out. Elizabeth smiled ruefully, brushing flyaway leaves from her red scarf.
"It's a never-ending task, but it keeps me occupied."
Seeing her friend's weariness, Betty squeezed her shoulder.
"It's been a hard season, but better times are coming. Keep your spirits up."
With Betty's help, they finally wrangled the leaves into some semblance of order. Elizabeth stood back, surveying their work, leaves racing past her feet again already.
"You're right, Betty, I can't control the winds.
She mused.
But I can brace myself and do my best until they pass."
Betty nodded. Arm in arm, they went inside Betty's house for hot cider by the fire. Elizabeth felt warmed, knowing she didn't have to weather storms alone. With steadfast friends and faith, she would make it through the blustery seasons, unfalteringly. As they sipped cider by the fire, Betty was bustling about, muttering,
"Now where did I put that Jell-O recipe? I simply must find it before the holidays."
As the sun went down, Elizabeth gazed into the flames. A photo on the mantel caught her eye. Betty's late husband Harold. Betty followed her glance and chuckled.
Ah, yes, my dear Harold. I suppose I should introduce you properly.
She lifted an ornate urn on the fireplace mantel that was next to the photo.
Harold's ashes are in here. Someday I hope to have a ceremony spreading his ashes at the fishing creek in England where he fished as a boy.
Elizabeth blinked in surprise, but tried not to show it.
What a lovely tribute to Harold.
She managed. Betty beamed.
He was a wonderful man, kind, patient, always game for adventures.
She dabbed her eyes fondly.
I suppose that's why I'm still trying to solve mysteries even at my age. Keeps that spirit of adventure alive.
I never got to know Harold,
said Elizabeth.
I was just always busy with life and school. I wish I would have taken the time to know him better. Matter of fact, before this whole tragedy, I really didn't know you either.
There, that's just how life goes sometimes. Everyone is in a rush to do this or that. Tragedies can bring people together, and that's what it did for the two of us.
Betty replied. Seeing Betty's indomitable spark, despite the loss, Elizabeth felt humbled. If her friend could face darkness with courage and cheer, so could she. They would navigate the storms together.
Speaking of mysteries, I've been mulling over potential motives behind the Collins murder,
Elizabeth remarked.
But I'm stumped on any solid theories.
Betty set down her cider decisively.
Well, it's never too late to search for more clues.
Seeing Elizabeth's hesitance, she waved a hand.
Oh, poppycock, it's not that late. Why don't we head over to the Collins house tonight and have a discreet poke around?
I don't know, Betty. Besides, I was just over there today and didn't find anything.
Elizabeth hesitated, but Betty was already fetching her coat and hat.
Come now, it's already dark. Grab your camera and notepad. No time like the present.
Unable to curb her neighbor's enthusiasm, Elizabeth reluctantly got her things, put some new film in her father's old camera, and met Betty outside. They then hurried down the quiet street to the Collins home.
We'll just take a quick sweep of the premises and be on our way,
Betty whispered conspiratorially. The house was still and gloomy in the encroaching dusk. Elizabeth's pulse quickened as they peered into dark windows, looking for signs of life. Approaching the driveway at the side of the Collins' darkened home, Elizabeth and Betty crept up to their trash can, hoping for clues. Removing the lid, Elizabeth peered inside the empty bin. Betty shone her flashlight along the interior of the can.
Aha, there's a piece of paper stuck to the side,
she exclaimed. Just then, a noise sounded from the backyard. Startled, Elizabeth hastily grabbed the paper and tucked it in her pocket. She and Betty dove behind a nearby bush, just as a porch light flicked on. Crouching low, they watched a shadowy figure emerge to investigate, heartbeats thundering. After what felt like an eternity, the door closed again, and the house went dark. The women remained huddled in tense silence for several more minutes, just to be sure. Finally, Betty whispered.
I think the coast is clear.
Carefully, they emerged from the bushes. Elizabeth's hand shook slightly as she uncrumpled the discarded document retrieved from the trash. In the dim light, they made out what looked like a torn check memo.
Do you think this could be important evidence?
Betty asked in a hushed voice. Elizabeth nodded firmly.
I'm going to find out. One way or another, I'm getting to the bottom of this mystery.
Clutching the paper like a lifeline, she knew the risks now mattered little. She would unravel the sinister secrets that had plagued Worthington, no matter what dangers lay in wait. A light suddenly switched on in an upstairs window of the Collins home. Muffled voices that were arguing drifted out from the open pane. Betty grabbed Elizabeth's arm excitedly.
Quickly, let's get closer to eavesdrop.
They snuck around to the backyard, where a large tree stood close to the illuminated window.
Climb up and see if you can overhear who's arguing.
Betty urged. Elizabeth hesitated,
That tree is too high. I could never climb it.
but Betty was undeterred.
Nonsense, I'll give you a boost up. Now put your foot on my hands and I'll lift you to that lower branch.
But Betty, I don't want you to get hurt.
Elizabeth protested. Betty scoffed.
Hurt? I may be 60 years young, but I'm spry as a spring chick. Now hop up, we're losing time.
Reluctantly, Elizabeth allowed Betty to hoist her up into the tree's lower boughs. Heart pounding, she slowly scaled higher, while Betty kept watch below.
Thank you for listening to Bradley Barkhurst's Underlying Love, a Worthington, Ohio mystery. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel and purchase the novel. Now that Betty and Elizabeth have made it to the Collins house, who is arguing inside and what are they arguing about? What information will Elizabeth uncover from the torn check memo found in the trash can? And will Betty find her missing Jell-O recipe? Stay tuned for the next episode of Underlying Love, a Worthington, Ohio mystery, Chapter 10, Part 2, Winds of Change.